So, section 6.2. Now we are solving systems using substitution. We are solving systems using substitution. So substitution uses algebra. Now we're using algebra to solve out the problem. So we're not doing anything graphing related. Now we're actually just doing substitution. So substitution is not new. That's one thing to stress. Substitution isn't new. Every single time you've taken a number and plugged it in, that's substitution. You've taken variables and plugged it into an expression, that's substitution. So, just like with example 1, if they give you 6x minus 5, and they tell you that x is equal to 4, you would take 4 and plug it in for x. So 6 times 4 is 24. 24 minus 5, 19. That's substitution. That's what substitution is. It wouldn't matter if it was a variable. They give you 8x plus 3y, and they tell you that y is equal to 2x. Take 2x and plug it in for y. So that's 8x plus 3 times 2x. What's 3 times 2? 6. So 3 times 2x is 6x. 8x plus 6x is 14x. It's not equal to anything because there wasn't an equal sign. Example 3 is the same way. Now, example 3 might look familiar because this is how the extra credit problem, one of the extra credit problems should have been solved. You have 9x plus 4y, and x equals 3 plus 2y. So take 3 plus 2y and plug it in for x. So notice that every time I plug in something, I put it in parentheses. If you have parentheses, what are you going to have to do? The second you see parentheses, what happens next? So looked like I heard a little bit something called multiply. So multiplying, also known as distributing. So 9 times 3, 27. Of course, that's not interference. 9 times 3 is 27. 9 times 2y, 18y. Is there anything up there that I can put together? The 18 and the 4. 18 and 4. That's 27 plus 22y. Or you can always rewrite it as 22y plus 27. It doesn't make a difference. So that's substitution. It's when you plug something in to somewhere else and you work the problem out. That's what substitution is. So when we solve a system using substitution, we're plugging one number in that is already set up into another equation that is not. We're substituting something for something else. It's just like if you play for a sports team. If a substitute comes in the game, the substitute is replacing someone in the lineup. Same rule applies mathematically. Any questions before we continue? Any questions before we continue? not, then let's keep going. Again, come off of mute or type it in the chat if you have a question. Closed mouths still don't get fed. So when we do substitution, you're plugging one number or expression that is already set up for you into another equation which is not. When you finish, your problem should only have one variable. So here's what that means. So if you have x equals 3 and 4x plus 2y equals 9, since x is equal to 3, you're going to take 3, substitute it in for x. That's what substitution means. If you have y equals 5x and x plus 2y equals 17, since y is equal to 5x, take 5x and plug it in for y. You're substituting. Now, it doesn't always have to be at the top. It's not always top to bottom. It can also be from bottom going to the top. 3x plus 2y equals 18. Y equals 3 minus 2x. So y is equal to 3 minus 2x. Take it and plug it in. So sometimes it'll be top to bottom, sometimes it'll be bottom to top. But that's how we substitute. When we substitute, we should get a problem that only has one letter in it. So they're either all X's, all Y's, all Z's. There's just one letter of the alphabet in there. That's how substitution works. Any questions before we start trying some examples? So after you plug, well, they're telling us what y is equal to. So you would plug this in first. So if you plug it in, you would have 3x plus 2 parentheses 3 minus 2x equals 18. So you would solve that for x and then take the answer and plug it back in. But we're going to do examples of those so that you can see how it works. Again, we don't want two different letters in the problem, so we want to get rid of one of them. We don't want two letters in the problem, we want to get rid of one of them. So let's start out with a pretty easy example. X is equal to 1, x plus 2y equals 5. So x is equal to 1, x plus 2y equals 5. So they already told you that x is equal to 1. So that means we go to the other equation, and instead of x, we plug in the number 1. We substitute it. Take the 1, plug it in for x. So now we don't have two variables, we have one variable. Instead of two letters, we have one letter. 1 plus 2y equals 5 is a pretty simple problem. What do we do first? Oh, how do we solve that? Subtract the 1 from the 5. So it seems like Demaya is the only person here today. So subtract 1 on both sides. 1's drop out. 2y equals 5 minus 1 is 4. Then what? Divide by 2. So y equals 2. So you have x equals 1 and y equals 2. So your answer is 1, 2. That's it. Problem's over. Okay, substitution is simple if something is already set and ready to go. Any questions with example 1? All right, not saying you're hearing anything, so let's move on. So example 2. You have y equals 4x, and 3x plus 2y equals negative 66. So you already have a substitute ready to go in the game. So y is equal to 4x. So since y is equal to 4x, 3x plus 2y equals negative 66, since y equals 4x, you're going to take 4x and plug it in for y. So anytime you plug something into a problem, you put it in parentheses. 3x plus 2 parentheses 4x equals negative 66. Any questions so far? All right, so this 2 sitting in front of the parentheses means what? If you have a number sitting in front of parentheses, what does that mean? That means distribute. So you're going to take the 2 and multiply it times 4x. So what's 2 times 4? 3x plus 8x equals negative 66. That looks like something simple that we can solve. Now what? And not subtract the 3x. We're going to add, so what can we do with those two? The 3 and the 8. Combine like terms. 3x plus 8x is 11x. 3x plus 8x equals 11x. So I'm hoping that Shire, Morgan Parker, make sure that y'all are keeping up. If y'all got questions, y'all gotta ask. What do we do next? Divide by 11. So we have x equals something. What is x equal to? So that excess equals something. Negative 6. So now we know that x is equal to negative 6. So x equals negative 6, but y has to be something. So since I know that x is equal to -6, what can I do with it? Now we can plug it into the equation. So now that I know that x is equal to -6, I can go and plug it in. So y equals 4 times -6, which is -24. So x is -6, y is -24, -6, comma, -24. So you plugged in, solved to get one answer, then you plugged it back in to get the other answer. So looks like we went in a big circle. Looks like we went in a big circle, and that's okay. Questions on 1 or 2? Yeah, remember, just because you don't have a quiz today or this weekend doesn't mean, oh, well, I can take a break. I can do this, that, and the third. No, you still have homework, and you're still going to be responsible for it. All right, so let me give about 30 seconds here for those people who need to catch up with their notes before we go to examples 3 and 4. All right, so we have 1 and 2. Let's go to examples 3 and 4. All right, so example 3. So you have 7x plus 4y equals -13, and x equals -6y plus 9. So we're looking for the substitute. So the substitute is where x is equal to something or y is equal to something. So which equation would be the substitute? The top one or the bottom? The bottom. So your substitute is whichever one is x equals or y equals. That's your substitute. So your substitute is x equals -6y plus 9. So you're going to take -6y plus 9 and plug it in for x. And plug it in for x. So when you substitute, that means you're taking one letter out and putting another letter in. So 7x plus 4y equals -13 becomes 7 parentheses -6y plus 9 plus 4y equals -13. So how many letters are now in the equation? Well, there's 2, but how many different letters are in the equation? Just 1. That's what you want. Instead of 2 different letters, you just want 1. It can repeat itself, that's okay, but you just want 1 letter in there. Any questions before we continue? I know my rock stars are doing what they do best. So, there's my equation. How would I start it out? What would have to happen first? Get the distribute. So 7 has to multiply times negative 6y, and 7 has to multiply times 9. So 7 times negative 6 is negative 42. 7 times 9, 63. Plus 4y equals negative 13. Everything else comes down. Now what? Absolutely. What am I going to combine? Absolutely. So negative 42 and positive 4, that's negative 38. So negative 38y plus 63 equals negative 13. All right, so Demaya, you're doing a lot of the good work. You take a break. Everyone else, what do I do next? Don't worry, we'll wait. So subtract 63. Thank you, Alyssa. Appreciate your life. Subtract 63 on both sides. I hope some of y'all ain't gonna be this quiet when we come back to school. Well, some of y'all for high grade and some of y'all next year. Y'all won't be able to be this quiet sitting in the classroom. We participate in these streets. What do we do on both sides? Divide by negative 38. So that gives you y equals 2. So that's y equals 2. Again, when we were back in school, I told my students all the time, if a class is quote unquote dry, it's not the teacher's fault all the time. Sometimes it's your fault. If it's dry, part of the blame belongs to you. So participate. What's the worst thing that can happen? So you got y equals 2. So we don't know what x is equal to, but we know that y is equal to 2. So what can you do with this 2? What could you do with the 2? Now that you know what it is, what could you do with the 2? Let's see. Oh, go ahead, Demaya. So we can take the 2 and we can put it into whichever equation we want. So you get an option. You can put it in the top equation or you can put it in the bottom equation. It doesn't matter which one you pick. So since you had mentioned the 4y, that's where we're going to put it. We're going to take the 2. Take that 2 and plug it in for y. We'll take the 2 and plug it in. Now we can do some things. 4 times 2, that's 8. What happens with the 8? Subtract the 8. So 7x equals negative 21. Then you divide 7 on both sides. So x is equal to negative 3. So x is equal to negative 3. So you have x equals negative 3, y equals 2, negative 3, comma, 2. So someone might be thinking, how come negative 3 has to go first? Think to yourself, what comes first in the alphabet, X or Y? If you always think of it that way, you'll always know the order that the answers have to go in. Always go in alphabetical order. Always go in alphabetical order. Questions on example 3? All right, so let's look at example 4. So we'll do one more, and then we'll get a little bit of a challenge. So example 4. What do you notice about example number 4? What do you notice is different about example number 4? There's 2 substitutes. So both of them, so you have y equals and y equals. So you have 2 equations equal to same letter. You have 2 equations equal to the same letter. Y equals, Y equals. You have 2 substitutes. So if you have 2 equations equal to the same letter, then you're going to take their parts, set them equal to each other. Set equal to each other. So if you have 2 equations equal to the same letter, you're going to take their parts and set them equal to each other. So 8x minus 5 equals 5x plus 19. You can set them equal to each other. Any questions before we continue? If you have questions, make sure to ask. If you don't have questions, then yeah, you can go ahead of you can go a little bit ahead of us then. So we have to find out what x is equal to. We've got a variable on each side of the equation. So which variable is going to move, the 8 or the 5? So one of these two has to move. Which one gonna move? Clyde, you know which one we gonna move? Yasiel, you know which one we gonna move? Jovan, you know which one we gonna move? Which one we gonna move? Which one of these is gonna get moved? Which of these two variables are getting moved? 5x. Subtract 5x on both sides. 8 minus 5 is 3x. So this is back to a basic equation. Now what do we do? Add 5 to both sides. 5 drop out, so 3x equals 19 plus 5 is 24. So we still got to get rid of that 3. Divide everything by 3. So x equals 8. All right, so we know part of the answer. So x is equal to 8. So x equals 8. We have to figure out what y is equal to. So what can I do with the 8 to figure out what y is equal to? There you go. Pick an equation and substitute. Pick an equation and substitute. Does it matter which one you pick? No. So I'm going to pick the bottom equation. Why? Because I felt like it. I could have picked the top equation if I wanted to. I'll still get the same answer. So x equals 8. So y equals 5 times 8 plus 19. So 5 times 8 is 13. So 5 times 8 is 13. Is that right? 5 times 8 is 13. 5 times 8 is 13, right? Oh, Alyssa says no. So what's 5 times 8 then? 40. And then 40 plus 19, 59. So x equals 8, y equals 59, 8, comma, 59. Eight comma 59. Any questions on example 4? All right, so there's one last example that we're going to do, and then I'll preview what's going to happen next week. So for the first 4 examples, we had a substitute that was already set up. For the first 4 examples, we had a substitute that was already set up. Every single one of the first 4 examples, we already had a substitute. In example 1, we already had a substitute. In example 2, we already had a substitute. In example 3, we already had a substitute. Example 4 was pretty cool. We had 2 substitutes. For example 5, how many substitutes do I have? There's example 5. How many substitutes do I have? None. No one is ready to be substituted. There is no substitute that's ready. That means they probably sitting at the end of the bench. They didn't know they was coming in the game, so they still got their warm-up pants on. Probably got their little windbreaker jacket still on. They wasn't ready to go in the game yet. So we have to get one of these 2 ready to go in the game. We have to get one to get ready to go in the game. So we need to make one of those a substitute. So we need to solve one of the equations for x or y. For x or y. So if you look at those 2 equations, we're looking for an equation that doesn't have a number in front of a letter. Which equation does not have a number in front of a letter? Which equation does not have a number in front of the letter? Perfect. So you have y plus 6x equals 11. So since y does not have a number in front, that means the only thing it needs to do is to get rid of the 6x. So how do we get rid of a positive 6x? How do we move that to the other side? How do we move 6x? What's the easiest way to move 6x? Subtract. So we subtract 6x on both sides. Those drop out, so you get y equals 11 minus 6x. Now, since we're not graphing, you do not have to put it in slope-intercept form. You can if you want to, but since you're not graphing, you do not have to put it in slope-intercept form. So now you have y equals 11 minus 6x and 3x plus 2y equals negative 5. Any questions so far? What is up? There's no space. That's 2. So again, if something doesn't click, you have to ask. Don't wait until you have a quiz or a test in front of you to then realize, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. That's too late at that point. All right, so now we have 2 equations. Which one is the substitute? Top one is now the substitute. And now we have a substitute that we can put in the game. They took their warm-up pants off, so now they can be a substitute. Now they can be a substitute. So we're going to take 11 minus 6x, plug it in for y. Take 11 minus 6x and plug it in for y. So you get 3x plus 2 times 11 minus 6x equals negative 5. So now we gotta start solving out. You have parentheses, so you distribute. 3x plus 22 minus 12x equals -5. Now what? And -12. So -9x plus 22 equals -5. All right. So we on our way. Now what? So something's got to happen, probably with that 22. Subtract 22 on both sides. So -9x equals -27. Divide both sides by -9. So x equals 3. So now we know one of the answers. So now we know something. We know a little something, something. So x equals 3. What do I have to do to get y? I know what x is equal to now. How do you get y? Yeah. So since x is equal to 3, you can put it in to one of the equations you started with. So you actually got some options now. You can take 3 and put it into one of the two problems that you started with, or you can put it back into the substitute if you really wanted to. You just have to put it somewhere where there's an x. So I'm going to put it into the substitute. So 11 minus 6x, so that's y equals 11 minus 6 times 3. 6 times 3 is 18. And that's -7. So y equals -7. So we get 3, comma, -7. That's it. Problem's over. So it got a little harder. It's okay if it got a little harder. I wouldn't say it was going to be easy. It's okay if it got a little bit more difficult. Be that way sometimes. Questions on example 5 before we get ready to start closing up shop. And for those of you who participated, I appreciate your life. I know at least in your case, the learning will be a little bit easier. I know some of you all, I'm confident that you know what you're doing. There's some of you all, hey, I'm a little worried about you. Some of y'all kind of not performing, kind of not showing that you know what you're doing, and you're not asking for help. So you're making it harder for me to try to get you there. So that's one of those it is what it is type deal.